Just 3 races into the 2024 Formula One season, whispers have begun to circulate that Daniel Ricciardo's position is in jeopardy following a difficult start to the year. In retrospect, the decision kind of turned out to be a disaster of sorts. Instead of putting the impressing Liam Lawson in the seat of Visa Cash App RB, Red Bull's men opted to bring Daniel Ricciardo back after his injury in 2023. But it hasn't turned out the way Red Bull hoped for. And now, Ricciardo has been given an ultimatum to perform immediately or be replaced by Liam Lawson, according to reports from New Zealand early Monday. Given Ricciardo's previous record, it's difficult to envision him dramatically improving in Japan and China. As a result, Lawson is probably warming up carefully in the wings. Ricciardo began 2024 knowing that he would face heavy scrutiny this year, since his contract with McLaren was bought out at the conclusion of 2022 to allow the Woking-based side to make a driver change. Ricciardo found refuge with Red Bull as a backup driver for both teams and was given the nod to replace the underperforming Nick de Vries in the middle of last year following a solid Pirelli tyre test in Red Bull's RB19. Red Bull took their time deciding which drivers will compete for their newly rebranded RB sister team, formerly AlphaTauri, with Yuki Tsunoda and Ricciardo getting the nod over Liam Lawson. Lawson was called in as a substitute for 5 races when Ricciardo was out injured, and he impressed with mature driving and a hard-fought 9th place in Singapore. But he is now waiting in the wings for a chance to emerge with RB or Red Bull. According to the New Zealand newspaper, that opportunity might arrive soon, possibly as early as the Miami Grand Prix. According to the Herald, Red Bull's Helmut Marko has sent Ricciardo an ultimatum that if changes are not made soon, Lawson may be given the car for the remainder of the season. However, other reports coming from Europe are saying that Ricciardo is on the verge of losing his position are premature. While the Australian driver is being rushed, there are no plans to replace him. Lawson's own management team has also stated that the Kiwi driver has not been informed of any such plans by Red Bull, and that he has had no contact with the media or commented on a potential switch into Ricciardo's seat. But if they did know anything, they wouldn't let it slip, of course. However, as the reserve driver, Lawson remains hopeful that a full-time slot will become available. And Ricciardo should be watching his steps, as he's almost out of options. While the idea of a move in time for Miami has been dismissed for now, it is not impossible that such a stunning swap may occur as the year develops because Lawson only nearly missed out on a spot with the RB squad, and is believed to have Marko's admiration. Marko had previously given Ricciardo the hurry up after a tough first 2 races, and he failed to advance from Q1 in Australia after violating track limitations on his quickest performance. He finished 12th in the Grand Prix, although Tsunoda was moved to 7th due to Fernando Alonso's time penalty. Marko sought to incite the RB drivers before departing for Australia, claiming that both had driven too slow in the races. There's a lot at stake for Tsunoda and Ricciardo. Both might be hoping for a seat at Red Bull, and one should be well ahead of the other, Marko said. So far, Ricciardo is a bit behind, but let's put it this way. Tsunoda's qualifying speed is okay, but in the race, both are too slow. I think 1 point would have been possible in each of the first 2 races. It's very difficult to score points behind the top 5 teams, and when you have an opportunity, you can't afford to make mistakes. He's struggling, we'll have to see. There were some good signs in the Bahrain test, but the last few races haven't been going too well. I think Ricciardo needs a safe and confident car. I hope the team can give him that so he can at least be on par with Yuki. Marko has also stated that Ricciardo must come up with something pretty soon, while Lawson has stated that he is absolutely ready to return to Formula One if the chance comes, saying that he is ready to replace Ricciardo at any time. I think Daniel knows that the potential is there, but I'm sure he's probably expected to step it up, Lawson said. Lawson's newest statements came after the new season of Drive to Survive, Netflix's highly regarded F1 docuseries, showed his actual response to being refused a permanent F1 seat in 2024. After being notified of the news by Red Bull team principal Christian Horner, Lawson was seen making a joke at Tsunoda, whom he had easily outpaced in the Singapore Grand Prix. "I've just beaten the guy who got the seat," Lawson adds. "It was meant to be me." As for Ricciardo, who went to Australia without feeling he had anything to show after 1980, F1 world champion Alan Jones stated his compatriot was beyond his prime. The 8-time Grand Prix winner feels he still has what it takes to be a top-tier driver. "I definitely believe I can do it," he stated. "It's probably a 2-part process now. I think there's obviously me diving into the data and seeing even kind of like driving technique. Why am I doing this? Is it because of what I feel? Like I'm trying to then respond or correlate that to the data and talk to the engineers while I'm doing something and then ask them questions? Why is it giving me this feeling? I'm certainly throwing a lot of questions at them, and I'm obviously asking myself a lot too, so I wouldn't say there's any panic. I would have loved the season to have started better, but we'll just keep digging. I think as well the car hasn't really changed from last year. Obviously it's a bit of an update, but its characteristics and everything are very similar, so I think there's some confidence in that. It's not that we've changed everything and all of a sudden this car suits Yuki and doesn't suit me. I certainly don't feel it's anything like that. I think we will find something. I thought it would have been this weekend. Maybe it's next, and if it's not the next, then we'll keep going until it happens, and it will happen. Daniel Ricciardo's goal of returning to Red Bull is not finished, with Christian Horner insisting it is very early in the season to make that decision. All is not lost for Ricciardo and his hope of returning to Red Bull next season, as the Honey Badger revealed Horner's words of encouragement in the lead-up to the race. "He just wished me well and just told me to keep my head down and just not be discouraged," he said. Not for the first time, the 8-time Grand Prix champion claimed that his current RB issues are not comparable to his time at McLaren when he was searching for answers. "Obviously, I know how I feel, and maybe not everyone does, but it's a very different situation to McLaren," he added. "I think, especially 2022, I was running on very, very little confidence. I was kind of confused with the car and I didn't really understand it. That was a completely different thing. We're certainly not achieving what we thought we would be, but it's not through being lost." The good news for Ricciardo is that he still has plenty of time to battle back, something Horner feels he can achieve. He's had a tough weekend, haven't really looked at his race yet, but pretty similar pace to Yuki in the race, Horner said. He had a tough day yesterday, qualifying, getting that lap disallowed, so just want to give him a bit of encouragement. He's a big boy. He'll pick himself up, but sometimes being a Formula 1 driver is a bit lonely, so a bit of encouragement is never a bad thing. When asked if Ricciardo's early season form had pushed him out of the race for the 2025 Red Bull seat, Horner answered, "It is very early in the year to be thinking about that." In Drive to Survive, Horner even referred to Ricciardo as his favourite F1 driver. We now know that Horner and external advisor Helmut Marko are no longer on the same page, and it is not unreasonable to speculate that Marko had a preference for Lawson even then. Lawson is well regarded in Austria. With the present performance, Ricciardo's situation has grown untenable, and he appears to face the same destiny that Nick de Vries did a year ago. If Ricciardo were to be booted after Miami, Lawson has 19 Grand Prix to get more Formula 1 expertise and experience. If the New Zealander is successful, he could be Max Verstappen's first-choice teammate beginning in 2025 if he continues with the racing team. Not Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz or Alex Albon, but Liam Lawson is now Red Bull's best hope. Exactly what Red Bull has always done: integrate a self-trained driver into the organization's elite F1 squad and chase new accomplishments with him. Without a doubt, Lawson will not say no to that situation. What do you think? Does Ricciardo only have 2 races left, or will Horner defend him once again? Yes, Ricciardo was capable of winning races, but he isn't the same anymore. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below.